All right, so we've got Puka Nacua essentially for Will Levis and Rashee Rice. And this one's interesting because obviously Will Levis, named the starter, actually has been playing fairly well. And then you have Puka, who started the season really well and now has kind of fallen off. But again, you're looking at a trade of this magnitude. The 26th third, first of all, why are we trading 26 picks? And the 26th third doesn't mean anything. And I think that's Jaren Hall.
Yeah, he doesn't
mean. So this is, again, Puka for Will Levis and Rashee Rice. This is interesting. As it sits right now, if we're evaluating this on market value, I think the Puka side wins.
Taking the Puka side, yeah. And some people would say that Puka's fallen off over the last month. He's had 2 games where he's scored like 6 or 7 points, and he's still gotten 7 targets in each of those games. So am I worried? No. That's what happens with wide receivers. They don't get the consistent volume that running backs do, so they have some down weeks. See every other top 12 wide receiver in the NFL with the exception of Tyreek Hill, I guess, but even him. So, no, I'm not worried about that at all. I think once you get towards the offseason, I think Puka will probably settle as at lowest a top 16 Dynasty wide receiver. So, with the questions surrounding Will Levis and Rashee Rice, I got to go Puka here.
So, here's the interesting thing about Puka Nacua is although he's struggled in the last 4 games, he still does not have a game in his career under 7 targets. So, I mean,
That's hilarious.
You're still talking like a pretty good amount of targets. Now, the problem becomes, when you only get 3 or 4 of those as catches and you only have 40 or 30 yards or 20 yards. However,
that's what happens when Brett Rippon is slinging the ball.
That's literally what I was going to say.
So Carson Wentz is not very good, and he's a lot better than that.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think I'm taking the Puka side here. I still believe in Puka Nacua. I do think he's going to be a very good wide receiver. It'll be interesting to see how, if Matt Stafford does retire, he adjusts to life outside of Matt Stafford.
Yep. Next trade we have here is David Njoku, Alvin Kamara, and David Montgomery for a 24 first and a 24 second.
This is interesting.
This is very interesting.
So if you're contending here,
this is the kind of deal that you're having to give up to contend.
I think if you're contending, I like this. I think I'm fine getting David Montgomery. I know everybody in the comments is going to say the 24 first side easily because everybody in the comments thinks that we're too low on Jahmyr Gibbs. But the fact of the matter is David Montgomery is on a very good contract. And even though there is a potential out next year, when you see the way that the Lions are using David Montgomery, I don't think there's any way that he's going to lose value. He's getting every red zone carry in that very good offense. Yep. They're probably going to be good for at least another couple of years. Not to mention Alvin Kamara is in this trade.
He's really, he's done well enough to insulate his value for another offseason, which I didn't think was going to be possible next year. I thought going into this season, if you bought Kamara, you were just going to have to let him die on your roster. If you own him now, you're actually feeling pretty comfortable if you eventually, have to kind of turn into a rebuild and ship him off. You can get some good value for him in 2024.
Yeah. So, I think even you could argue if it's a late second, you could pay a late second for Njoku as a tight end.
Yeah.
So then it's like really the first for Kamara and Montgomery. I think Kamara is not going for any cheaper than 2 seconds right now. And I think Montgomery is probably not going for 2 seconds. And if he is, you should buy him for 2 seconds. Yeah. So I think market is even. And I think if you're a contender, I'm fine taking the players side there.
Because you just assume those are late first.
If you're making this trade, they better be late first.
Yes. Next one is going to be Rondell Moore, Trayon Burks, Rashid Shaheed, and a third. Throw that out the window for Jonnu Smith. Throw him out the window. Tyler Algier and Jaden Reed. This is kind of gross. My favorite player in this deal is Jaden Reed. Yeah. I think long-term, Green Bay is going to be bad enough where they're going to be in a position to draft a quarterback this next offseason in 2024. Maybe they stick with Jordan Love if he shows out for the second half of the year. Either way, whichever scenario occurs, it's going to help the receivers in Green Bay's offense, specifically Jaden Reed, who I think is going to be a large factor with the power of that offense in the future. So I think I got to take the best receiver here. Algier actually continues to have dynasty value because of his volume that he's getting, and as long as Arthur Smith is coaching there, and it doesn't seem like they're going to fire him anytime soon because he's just mediocre enough to stay there for at least another year, I think you got to be looking at Algier and you're like, he's getting carries, he's getting goal line touches. I'm comfortable with that. Trayon Burks. We are we've been big proponents for Trayon Burks. Like, since he was drafted, since Tennessee traded away A.J. Brown to get him, since he had kind of a poor rookie showing because of the injuries. We came into this year, we said, buy Trayon Burks. He has a really nice ceiling. And with Will Levis, who's eventually going to start, that's really going to help Burks. And you saw that. Like, he actually targeted Burks. And then the second Burks was targeted by Will Levis and got consistent volume, he literally just fell on the ground and was carried off in a stretcher. And I hope he's okay. I hope that's nothing long-term for him. But, I mean, I don't throw injury prone around, but I feel like every time Trayon Burks steps on the field, he gets injured. This is legitimately, in 2 years, the 5th or 6th time.
Easily.
Like,
he's not
shown where he's left for a significant amount of time. Not just like a fluky injury, but like, goodness. It's...
Yeah.
I'm going to go Reed.
I'm going to take the Reed side here. Reed's the best player in the deal. You could make an argument. According to Keep Trade Cut, the second best player in the deal is Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah.
You could make the argument that that's Tyler Algier, actually. Because Tyler Algier, if he's going to continue to be in that offense and get carries, which, you know, from a Bijan perspective, you're like, why? But Arthur Smith literally will sit there and troll your fantasy team to the press. So
yeah, he will.
Yeah, we're spending too much time. This trade is a little bit washed. I'm going to go with the Jaden Reed side. Next trade we have here is going to be CeeDee Lamb and Roschon Johnson. Nice. And a third, which doesn't matter when CeeDee Lamb's in the deal. Just a sweetener, which you should. Swift and London is the other side of this trade.
I'll take CeeDee.
I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb here, man. As much as I like Drake London, talking about CeeDee Lamb being a top 4 dynasty wide receiver.
I can tell you exactly what happened when this trade went down. It was the stretch where CeeDee Lamb wasn't doing what CeeDee Lamb was expected to do this year, and someone panicked and they shipped off Lamb, and they wanted points in DeAndre Swift, and they wanted the consistent targets with Drake London. And yeah, to be fair, Drake London is a buy low. Yeah. I do like Drake London. I don't care how you combine Swift and London, or if you do, I'm still taking CeeDee Lamb. He's a top 3.
Yeah, and Roschon is technically a throw-in here, but it's a really good throw-in. One of my favorite throw-ins. So, yeah I'm taking CeeDee there. Yeah. Next one's going to be Deontay for 2 seconds.
We'll be telling people to do this all off season. I'm taking Deontay Johnson here.
I don't want you guys to overvalue what a late second actually is, because obviously if he's giving these seconds up, they're most likely late seconds. And at the point where it's like, you know, late second and on, you could make the argument, oh, Puka Nacua, oh, Sam Laporta, blah, blah. Yeah, occasionally there are guys in those ranges where we're like, yeah, we really like those guys. We really like Sam Laporta in the late second. Mostly dart throws there. Mostly dart throws. Puka's not the standard. Puka's the outlier. And so don't fool yourself into seeing 24 second and be like, oh my goodness. Guys, Deontay Johnson is worth an early second. If not, I mean, bordering like late first.
It's time to stop shorting Deontay Johnson because of George Pickens. It's time to short George Pickens because of Deontay Johnson. I think time and time again, he has proven that he is the superior wide receiver. He is the number 1. He is the target hog. And ultimately, he's the only consistent producing fantasy asset in the Steelers offense for the foreseeable future. So I'm loving his value right now.
Yeah, I am too.
Devon A-Chain and a second.
A-Chan.
A-Chan. Sorry.
I'm trying to save
for
you.
Kendre Miller, Jerry Jeudy, a first, second, and third.
Why would you even do this? Keep A-Chan.
Yeah.
Like I don't even
like A-Chan as a value right now, but if I'm shipping him off,
market value, like A-Chan wins this.
Yep.
And again, we don't know where the first is, so we have to assume, like you said, in a vacuum, we're assuming this is a mid-late first.
Yep.
And if it is, then look, if this is a top 3 pick in 2024, I'm very comfortable taking that side of the deal. I'm going to assume this is not. Kendre Miller is a throw-in. 25 second is a throw-in. 24-30 is a throw-in. It's Jerry Jeudy in a first for Devon A-Chan in a second. It's A-Chan.
And this isn't even me assuming that A-Chan's going to come back and score 7 touchdowns in 3 games again. Like, this is just me assuming that the dynasty market is going to continue to be irrational with A-Chan as a dynasty value. So I think you have to keep that into account if you're an owner of Devon A-Chan. And in my opinion, I'd just wait until the offseason to move off of him.
24 first or Kyron Williams?
24 first easily.
Yeah, I don't.
This to me.
You made this trade recently?
This is a Dameon Pierce rerun all over again.
Smaller
where
Dameon Pierce.
you're going to see just a situation where a running back comes in with no draft capital, no respectable draft capital. He shows out for a year in a system that's very friendly for running backs because of the volume, because of the situation. And that's, Sean McVay for you, even though he's literally verbally said he's never going to pay a running back again. Like there is no career track for Kyren Williams long-term to maintain this value. Please take that 24 first.
Yeah,
I don't care if it's a late one. I'm taking it.
Me too.
T. Higgins or George Pickens in a second. T. Higgins, man. T. Higgins. We have been known, I'm not going to say haters because we don't hate any players aside from Tom Brady, who's no longer in the league. Please stay that way. But with Higgins, we could not stand his value this past offseason. We told you guys that he was not going to put up the numbers that everyone expected and be this, show out as this bona fide top 12 dynasty wide receiver. That, of course, came to fruition because guess what? He's been struggling with injury and he just does not function as a 1 or a 1B in that situation with Joe Burrow. Regardless, he is so much better than George Pickens.
Yeah.
Like as a wide receiver, he gets more separation consistently. He's a better route runner. You just have to watch the games to know that.
He's not a head case.
He is not a head case. He doesn't have flashy plays like George Pickens. I'll give him that. But guess what? Flashy doesn't earn you more fantasy points. Targets and volume do. And wherever T. Higgins ends up next season, it will be a situation where he likely gets more volume than he has been consistently with the Cincinnati Bengals.
And something that's out of George Pickens' control. I mean, George Pickens has Kenny Pickett throwing the ball to him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really a knock on your value.
Yep.
But, I mean, we talked about all offseason how overvalued T. Higgins was, and finally his market value corrected after he, of course, underperformed it in terms of what expectations were for him this season. Mm-hmm. But if there's like maybe 1 or 2 receivers that are more grossly overvalued than T. Higgins, George Pickens is one of them. Yeah. He always has been, and he always will be. And Deontay Johnson will sprain his ankle again, and then George Pickens will be worth a first and a second. And I'm like, wait till he comes back and gets 13 targets, guys. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
it's not. To me, it's not even relatively close here. So
no,
I'm taking T.
Yeah.
First and a second, or Deebo Samuel.
I'm going to go with the first and the second now, and
Easily.
This isn't necessarily because of my own personal opinion on Deebo Samuel. Do I think if he shows out for the second half of the year this year that he could eventually be valued that? Sure. But I don't care how much he produces or what he does. I think objectively this first and second, by the time you get to the pre-draft process and your rookie drafts in general in Dynasty, like that's the first alone will be more valuable than Deebo Samuel. And if you offer that straight up for Deebo Samuel, everyone's going to take the first. Everyone. Market dictates what you should be doing in trades, and there's no situation where I'm taking this deal for Deebo.
I'm also taking the first. The value installation of the first and second is going to be much higher than Deebo Samuel,
Yeah.
who's struggled to stay on the field, who only has 1 touchdown this season, who's fighting for targets with Ayuk and Kittle and Christian McCaffrey.
Well, he won't be fighting for targets with Ayuk for much longer because he's the one that has a contract, and they won't be able to afford to pay Ayuk, I don't think, long term.
I would think you're probably
because they're going to just keep bolstering their defense with the rookie contract that they have with Purdy, and Shanahan's had his own problems with Ayuk anyways. They may as well just draft a wide receiver.
Not to mention Ayuk's a wide receiver 3 in fantasy right now.
Right, and as good as the wide receivers look right now in the 2024 class, like they could just draft one in the first or the second.
That's true.
A
lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Marquise Brown in a 24 first, or DeSean Watson and Njoku in a 24 second. Wow. A big DeSean Watson price check here.
Mm-hmm. I have got to go with DeSean Watson with the contract. I have to, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you have to. I'm gonna.
So what does this deal tell you about that 24 first?
It's probably late.
Yeah. That's my reason.
Okay. Yeah, but even in the late, like, can you get JJ McCarthy with that pick?
Well, that completely depends on where JJ McCarthy goes. Like,
it's just a good QB class, and that's what it's like.
I know.
So I do understand that. And DeSean, like...
But, I mean, would you rather take a total blind shot on a rookie quarterback at the end of the first round, which means they go probably at the end of the first in the NFL draft, or the early second?
Yeah.
At that point, give me the guy with the contract. I don't care how he looks on the field as an NFL talent. I care that he scores fantasy points and that he's guaranteed to score fantasy points for the next 4 years. They have to play him.
I think I have to go DeSean here as well. The other part about this that I don't really like is
the Hollywood Brown.
Well,
That scares me because I know that he's going to get a good deal in the offseason as well.
the part that I don't like about the DeSean side of this, though, is that he was probably selling DeSean low. If it was any time within the last 3 weeks, you're selling low on DeSean.
Right.
So I don't like selling low. So then I have to take the DeSean side here.
I
Just
agree.
play the market.
Yep.
This is awesome. CeeDee Lamb and a 25 first or Brees
Nice.
Hall.
Love it. CD in the first, easy.
CeeDee.
You're getting insulated value in a wide receiver plus insulated value in the
a future
first.
pick.
Like
Plus the production.
You should take this first and flip it on the other side and give it to the running back. That's what a fair value deal would be, in my opinion, where you're getting the volatility at the running back and you're making up for it with the first by giving up the insulated value in CeeDee Lamb, who's essentially, even though he's older than 24, he's still a cornerstone asset. Like it's, I love this deal.
Who sent this in? Cooper Kupp and Tank Dell or Jamar Chase?
Yeah.
Who's making that deal?
Yeah.
What league are you
October. In October.
Oh, that was when Chase was bad.
Yes, that's when Chase was bad, and that's
Wow,
when Cooper
good
Kupp
for
had come
you.
back and was doing well.
Oh,
Yep.
dude, this guy pounced. That's a great
know.
move at the time.
These are fun to look at, man. Like not all of these you have to go really into the trenches and just do all this crazy research and say, well, statistically and according to my calculations, this is why this side is better than the other. Let's just look at this and like admire the fact that someone capitalized on a player who was not performing to expectations, but you keep your head above waves. This is textbook Dynasty fantasy football in the middle of the season when someone isn't producing, but you know that their situation and their ceiling is higher than that. Like this is no question. It's good. It's good Dynasty.
Rashee Rice and a 24 first round pick or Devon Achane. I just have to go Achane. Again, unless it's a top 4 pick, which if you have a top 4 pick and you're trading it, dude, what are you doing? It's got to be Achane. It's got to be with the market value alone. You can flip Achane for more than this. I have to go Achane there.
You skip the one above.
Oh, yeah.
Kirk Cousins, because this is a juicy one. Kirk Cousins, post Achilles, and a 24 first or Jared Goff and Tank Dell.
On a rebuild?
I'm taking the first.
I'm taking the first.
And I struggle to value Kirk Cousins right now.
I struggle to value Tank Dell.
But I struggle to value Tank Dell. Here's my issue with Tank Dell, and you can take this with a grain of salt.
Tank it.
There's not a lot of statistical analysis here. He's 24 years old. He is 24 years old as a rookie.
Being valued as the wide receiver 23 right now on Keep Trade Cut.
What's his ceiling?
That just seems really high to me.
What's his ceiling?
And shout out to CJ Stroud, but man, like, I don't know about that.
And talk about a team that could be in the running for a blockbuster deal with a free agent wide receiver, since there's so many in the market next season.
Oh, yeah. T. Higgins of Houston.
Houston doesn't have any draft picks or they don't have an early first or anything next year. I think they lost their first and their second for trading up for Stroud / Will Anderson. So if that's the case, I mean, they could get Ayuk, they could get Higgins, they could even go out there get Pittman.
Pittman hits the market, yeah.
And Hollywood Brown, any of those guys, and you're automatically looking at Tank Dell as like the speedster who is at best probably the 2. So you're like, okay, this value for Tank Dell, it's got to be capped. Not to mention in Dynasty, you want to look at those second contracts for wide receivers. He'll be 28 by the time he's entering a second deal.
Yeah.
So like what relevance, how long will he be relevant after that? We just have absolutely no idea.
I'll take the insulated value of the first there.
Yep.
That's hard. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that one because of Tank Dell. But
yeah.
I think last time we had a receiver like this that we just weren't sure about after the rookie season, his name was Christian
Watson.
And that's not working out so far.
No.
And,
Cortland Sutton and Ramondre Stevenson or Dak Prescott. There's not much you have to say about this.
Is this a super
one.
flex?
It should be in a super flex league.
Yeah. No.
You're taking Dak Prescott.
Guys.
It's not close. It's not close.
24 first and third or Josh Downs in 2 seconds.
I like this deal. I'm going to get juicy here. I'm going to take Josh Downs. Josh Downs in the 2 seconds. I think Josh Downs alone is worth... Would you pay a late first for Josh Downs? Straight up.
I think his range is within...
I'd pay a couple seconds easy, no problem.
I think I would too, yeah.
A late first?
But you get...
That's where you get...
2 seconds back and
I think
Josh Downs?
if you're even thinking about it, I think that means that Josh Downs is at least value equivalent.
I think you're onto something. I mean, look, guys, Josh Downs has been really, really good. Make no mistake. He has showed out this season. Who would have ever guessed that? But this season, he has games with targets, 9 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets, 6 targets, 12 targets, 7 targets, 5 targets. 1 target in his last game.
Well, he left injured after
But it's because he only played 20% of snaps.
Yeah.
Josh Downs has really been the truth when he's been playing.
Yeah.
So
He's
I'll
on
take the
track for
Josh Downs
1,000
side as
yards.
well. I like Josh Downs. A good market check here. Marquise Brown and Bijan Robinson. Or Waddle, Javonte in a second.
Yeah, I'll take Bijan.
I don't think it's... Yeah, I mean, the Marquise Brown is really what pushes it over.
So Bijan over Waddle, even though it's closer than it originally was this offseason. Hollywood or Javonte in a second. I'll take Hollywood. He's going into a contract year.
All right. How about Waddle in a fifth? Oh, gosh. It's one of your stupid leagues, isn't it? Or Devonte Smith, Ramondre in a fourth. Okay, so this is Waddle for Devonte Smith and Ramondre Stevenson.
Right.
And I'll take... I don't know. They're two pretty equivalent receivers.
They're in the same tier.
Yeah.
So I guess if you're getting Ramondre at a significant discount, just take Devonte Smith and Ramondre. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're both playing behind elite wide receivers. Devonte Smith is stuck with A.J. Brown probably longer than Waddle is stuck with Tyreek, but I don't really care.
Devonta's been more consistent to some extent. So it's hard.
Yeah. DK Metcalf and Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson and Chris Olave. Give me Lamar and Olave.
Me too.
I think the gap between Olave and DK Metcalf is significantly greater than Lamar and Burrow.
Yeah, I think Lamar and Burrow are...
They both have mega deals.
At most, a tier apart, at the very most,
right.
Olave is 2 tiers or more above DK.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep.
Keenan Allen and Saquon or Dameon Pierce, Chris Olave in a second. Ugh. I do not like this deal.
I'm still going to go with the wide receiver here.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because I don't like Saquon Barkley or his value. I actually think Saquon Barkley is a good value right now.
He is.
Especially assuming that he's going to get a contract next season. They're not going to tag him twice.
What if you're contending?
If you're contending, that's what you have to pay. But in Dynasty Fantasy Football, if I'm saying which side value-wise do I prefer Olave because it's more insulated. Once you get to the offseason, there's just too many question marks with Barkley. There's too many question marks with Keenan Allen. The Chargers are going to have to move on from Keenan Allen at some point. I would assume it's after this year because of the cap hit they're going to have with the Herbert deal, and they drafted Quentin Johnson. Everyone thinks Quentin Johnson's dead, but they've got to move on.
It's also not like Saquon's been nuts this year.
Right.
He really hasn't.
Right. Now, granted, it's kind of like JT last season. He's literally the only threat there.
And he, was hobbled.
Yes.
But still, he's had 1 game over 20 points.
Yeah.
Take Olave there. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Laporta in a second for Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs.
Laporta.
I think you have to for market value alone.
I'm taking a second over Waller. And market value-wise, I'm taking Laporta over Josh Jacobs. I just looked at Keep Trade Cut today. Laporta's back to the tight end 1. Hawk is tight end 4, which I think is really funny. You got to take Laporta here. I really like Josh Jacobs, again, as a value. I like buying him. But that doesn't mean I'm going to overpay market value-wise to go get him.
So, drop your trades in the comments. We'll get to as many as we can, but we get to every single one of these trades on flockfantasy.com/domain. And when you use code domain and you choose the Mother Flocker tier, you get one of these. This is a team blueprint. This is a multi-year comprehensive plan for your Dynasty team. It's going to give you team grades at every single position, including your starting lineup and your depth. It's going to give you pick score or draft capital score. It's going to give you players that you should be selling and targeting subsequently. It's going to give you all kinds of outlook options. So what the next 3 years should look like for your Dynasty team, whether you're a reload, whether you're a rebuild, whether you're contending and you should contend for multiple years. It's got all the information you should need for your Dynasty team, and we're all trying to take our Dynasty teams to the next level. Nathan and I have done a crap ton of these, mostly Nathan, and we have had a lot of good feedback from these. A lot of people that have said they've really helped their Dynasty team. So if you want us to help your Dynasty team, and you get to join our community, you get the rankings.
They ask us follow-up questions all the time.
I was going to say, after we send them the blueprint, they can just DM us. So that's at flockfantasy.com/domain, and again, choose the Mother Flocker tier to unlock the blueprint. Appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you later.